What is up, YouTube? It's Roy Millsy, my hometown commander. We are back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. As always, the deck list is going to be down in the description below. Today we are trudging on through precon week for Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and today we're looking at Stella Lee Wildcard, the face commander of the quick draw precon. Stella Lee is a 3-mana 2/4 human rogue in the Izzet colors. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you can play that card, and we can tap to copy target instant or sorcery spell we control. Choose new targets for the copy. Actually, only if you cast 3 or more spells this turn. So Stella Lee's kind of interesting, right? We have a payoff for getting spell number 2 and a payoff for getting spell number 3. And so that's what we're going to try to do through a couple of means, whether it be playing a bunch of really little spells or trying to find a way to more efficiently play multiple spells per turn. So what are our goals? We're going to try to damage our opponents when we cast spells, so that way no matter how big of a spell we are casting, we're dealing damage to our opponents. We have a lot of cards that make tokens when we cast spells. We're going to use that to help us translate some of our spell casts into damage. We have ways to untap creatures, and so we're going to try to find a way to untap Stella to potentially copy multiple spells each turn. And then we're going to talk about some ways where we can really cast a bunch of spells in one turn or build towards that and really grow towards pushing for the win in that route. Well, there are a lot of cards that damage when you cast spells. There are things like Gutter Snipe and Electric Static Field in this precon. Gutter Snipe dealing 2 damage to each opponent when we cast an instant sorcery, and Electric Static Field dealing 1. We're also playing Balmor, Battle Mage Captain, kind of work into this tokens for cast idea. Every time we cast an instant sorcery, all our creatures get +1, +0, and trample, growing them towards dealing some extra damage to our opponents. We're also playing Fiery Inscription, casting an sorcery, 2 damage to each opponent. And then we have Volcanic Torrent, which says it deals X damage to each creature and each planeswalker your opponents control, or X number of spells you cast this turn. Just taking one of those big turns and damaging our opponent's board, and should hopefully be kind of a one-sided board wipe, especially with that Cascade ability on it. There's a couple other ways in the deck to deal damage, but I thought that made the most sense. Well, let's get into how we're going to make the tokens. First off, we have Eris, Roar of the Storm. This is the alternate commander of the deck, costing 2 less for each different mana value among instant sorcery cards in your graveyard. Flying and Prowess, and then whenever we cast our second spell each turn, we get a 4/4 dragon with Flying and Prowess. Geralf, after our second spell and beyond, is going to make us a 2/2 blue and black zombie, and each zombie is going to come in bigger for each other zombie that came in this turn. Murmuring Mystic is going to make us a 1/1 Bird Illusion on each cast. Poppet Stitcher makes us a 2/2 zombie with Decayed. Talrand makes us a 2/2 Drake. And Third Path Iconoclast makes us a 1/1 Soldier. Young Pyromancer is going to make a 1/1 Elemental. And then Shark Typhoon will actually make a Shark whose power and toughness is equal to the mana value of the spell we cast. So a lot of ways to do this. A lot of ways to do this cheaply. A lot of those are very small creatures that do that. And that allows us to go wide and take advantage of those effects like Balmor to kind of grow our board, or maybe just go wider than our opponents. But there's a few ways to untap Stella and try to get her copy more than once in a turn. We have Refocus, which will untap Stella and draw us a card. Shore Up untaps Hexproof and +1/+1 till end of turn. And then Twisted Field 2 would allow us to gain control of Stella, give it haste so it can tap again, and then get a Wicked Roll token on it to protect it, to give it a little bit of a buff. But all 3 of these cards would untap Stella and allow us to then tap again to copy a spell that we're casting. All that leads us to how we're going to look forward to ending the game. And there's 3 cards for me when it comes to Izzet and casting lots of spells that I look to as being cards that'll help us do this. The first is Arcane Bombardment. Card says whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery each turn, you exile an instant or sorcery at random from your graveyard. Then you can copy each card exiled with Arcane Bombardment and cast any number of them up, paying their mana costs. This is a card you build up over time and can just cast a large amount of spells each turn for free without having to pay any mana than the spell you cast that turn. Mystic's Mastery says we can either For 3 mana, pick one instant or sorcery in your graveyard and cast it, exile it, copy it, and cast it for free. Or we can overload it for 8 mana and copy every instant sorcery in our graveyard and cast them for free. Again, leading to a big turn where we cast a ton of spells. And then we have 1,000-Year Storm, a 6-mana enchantment. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, copy it for each other instant or sorcery you've cast before this turn, which can be really great when it comes to spells that are really important and getting multiples of them, damages or drawing cards or getting certain effects for our board. There's a lot of cheap spells that do something and draw you a card, and this is a great way to copy those and get more and more things. I know it's a very surface level way to go through Stella, but in all reality, this deck's just going to come down to what route do you want to take Stella? Do you want to spit a bunch of really small spells out? Do you want to sit in the range of spells between 3 and 5 mana that are really impactful? For this deck, I chose to go with the cheaper spells, and you'll see that down in the deck list down in the description below. But there's so many ways to take this, and I think that's what makes this deck a little bit fun, is because you kind of get to make it the way you want to make it. But like I say in this show, whenever we're brewing version 1.0 versions of decks, there's always going to be cards we miss or cards we don't see or cards we're not sure about. And these were the 3 that I wanted to make it in the list, but just didn't, that I think if you did some time with testing, maybe you'd find some luck with these on your own. The first is Sorcerer Class. Card that when it comes in, you draw 2 and pitch 2. And when you take it up to level 2, all those tokens we're making are going to be able to tap for a mana to cast an instant or sorcery. And then at level 3, whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, that spell deals damage equal to each opponent to the number of instant sorceries you cast this turn. So the more we cast in a turn, the more damage it gets dealt. Crom, Violent Cacophony, is a flyer that just gets a counter every time we cast our second spell each turn and draw a card. Can make it big and a threat to our opponents. And then Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery from your hand, you may cast up to 1 target card of the other type from your graveyard. You cast a spell from your graveyard this way, exile it instead. Gale can be really good. It could just be a little finicky sometimes, but I think if you want to play with it, you can really play into using it to cast things for free and getting more activations for Stella. I actually really liked Gale, and of the 3 of these, it was the one that almost went in. It's just the creature slots in the deck got really hard to choose from, but I think Gale is a really good pick. Well, let's get into our first playtest. Keeping a 2-lander with Arcane Signet and some removal and some other fun things. Remember, Stella is 3 mana, so we can only get her out pretty quick. Well, we see a 3rd land, so that's pretty great. It's going to get to where we need to go. We'll play that Ferris Lake on turn 2 and get Arcane Signet down. So now we can get Stella down, or we can start playing some other stuff. Lock and Load's an interesting new card. Draw a card, then draw a card for each other spell instant sorcery you've cast this turn. We can plot it to play it later for free. Chaos Warp for a little bit of removal. 1,000-Year Storm that we're building into. We'll see what we can do here. Well, turn 3, we draw a Talisman of Creativity. So now I think that pretty much tells us we want to cast Stella and get her rocking, going up to 5 mana. Playing Island here on turn 4 will be with 6 mana. And unless there's something that really needs to be Chaos Warped, I don't even know if there's really anything I want to do this turn other than maybe just throw a 1,000-Year Storm down. We could plot the Lock and Load if we want to, but I kind of like to just get this down and get it ready to go. So then on a future turn, once we maybe see some other things, we can really get some good stuff. So we got to get to 3 spells to copy. But on the second spell, we get to exile the top card and play it on the next turn. Plotting doesn't count as playing a spell, so like we couldn't plot and overmaster, but we could overmaster into the Torrent this turn if we wanted to. The Cascade would get us into a 3rd spell and actually could make a fun interaction. So let's try that. We would pay 1 mana for Overmaster. Next instant sorcery you cast this turn can't be countered, draw a card. We would draw that card. Then we would cast the Volcanic Torrent. And 2 things are going to happen. The first, we're going to have a Cascade trigger on the stack. And the second is 1,000-Year Storm copying it once, which would not put a Cascade trigger on the stack, but that's okay. So the copy of Volcanic Torrent would go off. So far, we have casted 6 CMC of other cards, so 6 to each creature and planeswalker our opponent's control. Then the Cascade would go off for 5, which we reveal Gutter Snipe, which we'd be more than happy to cast at this point, and get that. And then Torrent would go off again. Now would be showing 9 with Gutter Snipe and dealing a bunch more damage. Again, kind of odd there because we've already probably killed most of the board on that original 6 damage, but now we got a Gutter Snipe out of that, and now the next turn we can hopefully play some more fun things. But that just goes to show you that 1,000 Year Storm can be really good and get us going. Now the only bummer of that copy, right? We would exile an Unexpected Windfall to Stella Lee. I guess we would put it on the bottom of the stack there. At any rate, if we can use something like Arcane Bedauerment or Mizzix Mastery, it's casting all of those, and 1,000 Year Storm's really going to pay off. Whereas here, it was just copied, so we wouldn't have gotten like the Gutter Snipe triggers. But let's untap for our next turn. 6 mana. Unexpected Windfall is a really good card. Lets us pitch a card to get 2 cards and 2 treasures. Can be really, really fun. So we're going to lose it at the end of the turn if we don't play it. So 6 mana and 1,000 Year Storm. So if we play something like, Expressive Iteration first, that means that Unexpected Windfall could be our second spell, and we'd actually get 2 copies of it, which is pretty cool. And when we copy Unexpected Windfall, we don't actually have to pitch a card because pitching it is a cost to cast it. So we actually will just get to draw 4 and make 4 treasures. So I would do that. I would Expressive Iteration first. So we look at the top 3, and here's our choices. We put 1 into our hand, 1 on the bottom, and play 1 this turn. So either of the Mana Rocks could be pretty cool. I kind of like the idea of Cursed Mirror into our hand. Maybe we can find a turn where we play it, copy the Gutter Snipe, and get some big damage. That in the bottom, and that to be played this turn. Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to everybody when we play this Expressive Iteration. We'll play that island from exile, so now we're up to 5 mana. And then I would go ahead and cast this Unexpected Windfall. That's going to have 2 triggers, 3 triggers, the 1,000 Year Storm, the Gutter Snipe, and Stella. So here I think I would just pitch maybe Twitch for now. I actually like the idea of Curse of the Swine as a board wipe, but we just did a bunch of that damage. Maybe we probably don't need that. We would go ahead and draw our 4 and make our 4 treasures, right, because of the 2 costs of... we're just going to say this is 4 this way. There. Now we have 2 spells cast, and Stella is going to show a Dragon Rage Channeler as our exile, which is a great card as we cast non-creature spells. We're going to surveil and kind of start digging through our deck, and then it's going to become a 3/3 with flying and attacks each combat if able. And so we have 4 more card types in our graveyard, which I don't think we do. Let's see, 1, just 2. So we're a little bit away from that, but we played our land for the turn, so we have 8 cards in hand. We'd kind of want to play this turn, right? Because we don't want to lose out on cards in our hand. Urabrask could actually be really great for next turn. So let's use those 4 treasures to play Urabrask. And we can copy target instant or sorcery as long as we've cast 3 or more spells this turn. But there's nothing to copy there, which is okay. And 1,000 Year Storm only copies instant sorcery. So playing this Urabrask isn't good to anything. But now next turn we can start doling out damage and getting mana back with Urabrask. Urabrask is great for that. I remember we get Dragon Rage Channeler until the end of our next turn. So we'll go 1 more turn here. Getting the mountain down, having 7, 8 mana. And we want to hopefully try to get up to 3, right, if we can, and get some big stuff here. And I think we're going to be able to, first off, we'll cast the Curse Mirror. And I actually kind of want to have it come in as a copy of Gutter Snipe. We don't want to pick Urabrask because it's legendary, so I would pick Gutter Snipe. So we'll say for this turn we have 2 copies of Gutter Snipe. That's spellcast number 1. Then, if we had a Chaos Warp target, if we had something we really wanted to get rid of, I would do that. Otherwise, I'd probably just cast Dragon Rage Channeler here. This is our second spell, so we're going to exile the top card and get a Forger's Foundry. This is kind of interesting new artifact. We can tap it out of blue. When we spend this mana to cast an instant or sorcery with mana value 3 or less, we exile it instead of putting it to its owner's graveyard. and then 5 mana, we can cast any number of the cards exiled with it without paying their mana cost. I like this because it's kind of like a mini arcane bombardment of sorts, depending on how you look at it and when you get it. That was spell number 2. So now we can play something like Expedite for just 1 red mana. So we're in 3, 4, 5. So we got 3 mana left. Expedite's going to get copied twice. Or sorry, apologize. Only it's not going to get copied. I apologize with Thousand Year Storm because we have yet to play an instant sorcery. But we could cast Tap Stella to copy it. Maybe we pick, Dragon Rage Channeler and Urabrask to get give them haste because it didn't really matter. All of our cards wouldn't matter. But now this is 4 damage because of the 2 gutter types to each opponent. We're adding a red with Urabrask, dealing 1 damage to 1 opponent of our choice. Then we get to Surveil 1. We see a land. I guess we're probably good on the lands at this point. And put that in our graveyard. And then we would draw 1. And we copied it with Stella. So we're going to draw 2. Right? So here's a scenario where we finally got up to 3 spells on a turn. We copied. We had some fun. And I think this is really where this deck's going to end. Right? Get to a board state where you can copy the things you kind of want. Think about it. What do you play on 2? What do you play as 3 so you can get that copy and kind of building a board state where we can really take advantage of it. But let me know, what do you think of Stella down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys next time.